All right, so I was finally able to get access to free access to this One Piece show, and I wanted to watch it. And don't make fun of me. I'm too old to be watching One Piece, but what are you gonna do? Started watching One Piece a long time ago. I think I am, what, like 300 episodes into the anime. I watch it on and off because it is a kids. It's mostly it's a kids show, so it's not that great for me to watch. But I've invested so much time in it. Started watching it years ago, but it's hard to just sit and binge through the show because again, it's a kids show. Also, One Piece has so many of these goddamn pathetic garbage filler arcs. I mean, they're worse than Naruto Shippuden with these damn filler episodes. So if just like, you want to kind of get to the end of the story. You started watching this story years ago and you want to keep up with these characters and see where they go and how strong they get and how different abilities that they get. But it's hard because I don't know when the end is coming. And I don't want to be sitting through all these damn filler episodes, but I don't know if I should skip episodes. So it's taken me a long time to get where I've gotten in the show. And the show was so goddamn long. I think they're still making fucking episodes. And this shit came out, I think, in like 2000 or some shit. This shit is like 15 or 20 years old. But either way, I started watching it. Characters are cool. The show is a cool little distraction if you're about to go to sleep and you just throw something on to lull you to sleep. It's good for that. It's not that serious of a show. Again, it's cool seeing the characters, kind of gain new abilities and things like that, and that's always cool. So that's nice to see. Whatever. I'm just trying to explain why this old man is knows about One Piece. But anyway, I know about it. I mean, it came out when I was young anyway, so I guess this it. Whatever. So I said I'm gonna check out the live action version, which I know is gonna be garbage because all these other every time they try to adapt anime into live action, I mean every single time it has always been garbage without fail, without question. They have never been able to do it properly. Even though I don't know why. There's this old anime called Munster. It's about a serial killer and a doctor who tries to stop him. It's a great anime. It's a long anime. It's a great anime. I saw that years ago. They were supposed to be making a live version adaptation of that, but they never did. And that show would be easier to make because it's more grounded. It's just a man and a doctor and a serial killer. But they didn't. They make these fantastic anime into live action shows. Oh, I'm sorry. The only show. There is one show, and damn, I forgot the name. It's this samurai who uses a reversed blade on his sword. He has like a scar. I forget the name of the show now. That version, that adaptation is okay. That's not, and I haven't even seen all of that because it kind of bores me a little bit, and I never really liked the anime either. Damn, I can't think of the damn name. Ah, shit. But that one's okay. Other than that, no adaptation has been good. So I said I'm gonna check this one out and see because it's One Piece. I mean, One Piece is probably like the hardest, would probably be the hardest to make, aside from maybe uh, Dragon Ball Z, maybe, and only because of the hairdos. That's literally the only reason Dragon Ball Z would be hard to make is because of the hairdos. But I think this would be the hardest to make. So I was like, they're gonna try to make One Piece into a live action. That's gonna be a joke. So I said, let me see if I can find some episodes. It took me a while. I found them and I was able to watch them for free. And I gotta say, this so far has been like one of the best anime adaptations I've ever seen. I couldn't believe it. They made changes. Some I didn't like. Some that were smart. So for example, they toned down Luffy. So Luffy in the anime is this fucking annoying, stupid ass kid who's just fucking screaming and acting like he's. I mean, the character seems like he may be a little retarded. That's how the character's portrayed in the anime. But in this, they decided to tone it down. That was such a smart decision because I was like, how are they gonna do this? So they toned him down, and I actually liked the kid that plays Luffy. I liked his character a lot. And when the show first started, I was like, oh god, this guy's annoying. He's making this stupid smile all the time. But over time, I started to like to warm up to the character, and I like this version of Luffy a million times better than the one from the damn anime because that character's just fucking annoying. I also like the fact that because normally in this anime they make the characters Japanese because it's Japanese from a Japanese manga, it's made by Japanese people. But that's not always smart. Like they made Full Metal Alchemist and they made all the characters Japanese. I'm like, these characters are based on European people. Why would you why would you pick Japanese actors to play these characters? Then the characters look stupid because you got a Japanese kid with this fake blonde wig. It just looks dumb. So luckily in this, they decided, and I think the creator of the manga actually participated in the making of this show, and that's why it is what it is. But they decided in this show that they were going to change the races of these characters because they're not in Japan. They're in this like fictional world with people of all kinds of different races. Can't say nationalities, but races. So they decided to not make them all Japanese, which was a good idea and a good decision. So I appreciated that. I liked that. I liked the guy that played Zoro. I liked the way they portrayed most of the characters. And again, they made changes to the characters. Some I didn't love, like Nami. They made Nami a little too serious, and a little I don't know the words to use. I'm not very smart, so I don't know a lot. I don't have a great vocabulary. But they made Nami a little too, I don't know, serious, a little too somber. I don't. It was something about the way the actress portrayed Nami, and they may have told her to do this, but it didn't feel like Nami at all. So I didn't like that. The changes to Luffy I already went over. Usopp, they made some changes too. He isn't as comical and outrageous, which again, you need to tone that down because it's not going to translate well over to live action. So they were smart enough to do that. Zoro, they didn't need to make any changes, and they didn't make too many changes. So that was good. They left Zoro Japanese, so that was good. Sanji, I don't dislike the way Sanji's portrayed, but it's not exactly the same. So with Sanji, you could have toned it down a little bit, but you could have kept his the excitement or the way that he turns into like this little schoolboy whenever a beautiful woman comes around. You could have kept that in there in a way. They kind of kept it in there. I've only seen 5 episodes so far, so I was kind of just introduced to Sanji. And you only see him react to Nami, and it's not the same. And I wish they had kept that the same. You could have toned it down like they did with Luffy and with Usopp, but you should have left it in there and made it more. You should have left it in there so that people would actually recognize and people would see it. Because if you're not a fan of the anime, you ain't gonna know. You're not gonna see that part of him. You're not gonna really know that because they kind of took it out. So.
この方々はルフ太郎さんのお仲間の方たちですか？なんて可憐なレディー！メロメロメロメロメロメロメロ。
Other than that, and I don't really like his accent. I don't like that he has an accent because even the Japanese character, the way he looks, the way he moves, the way he acts, he does it. I would have never had. I don't know what type of accent he had, but I would have never pictured him with that accent. So. Didn't love that. But for the most part, I liked what they did with the characters. I liked the characters' interactions with each other. So the show wasn't great, but it's not bad. It's a good show so far, the 5 episodes I've seen. I can't believe I'm giving praise to something, right? Obviously, this is my channel. If you've watched any of my other videos on pop culture stuff, it's always negative. So, of course, this is going to turn into something negative. But for the most part, the show was good. It surprised me, and it was good because to be able to turn One Piece, which is one of the most outrageous anime you've ever seen, aside from fucking JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I think this is actually more bizarre than JoJo, to be honest with you, because this is some weird shit happens in this show. Clowns that get cut into pieces, shark men, rubber boys. This show is One Piece is one of the most outlandish anime out of popular anime that you would adapt into something live action, and they pulled it off. For me, they pulled it off. So that was the good about the show. This video it's actually about something else, but I wanted to talk about the show a little bit. The bad about the show is, well, before I get into the bad, I'll talk about like the sets. They had some really good sets. I like the episode where you introduced to Usopp. They're in that house, the mansion that the sick girl lives in. That was beautiful. The way that's whole set, the way that was set up. There are sets that are gorgeous. The boat, the restaurant boat thing where they introduced you to Sanji, that was beautiful. But then they have some sets that I don't want to say look cheap, but it feels like a fucking set. You know, the episodes where you're introduced to Sanji and Usopp, that felt like you're at a location. The episode where they fight the clown pirate, Buggy or Biggie or whatever his name is, it just looked, I don't know how to describe it, but it felt like you were on a set, and it pulled me out of the show. It broke the immersion for me. So I didn't like that. The clown episode was, to me, out of the 5 that I saw, the worst episode, because they were like always in this big tent. It's like, it just felt like they were just stuck on set, and they were just filming on these sets, and it kind of broke what the show is, because One Piece is a show about traveling and open seas and adventure. So you expect to see all these different locations and locales and environments. And in the first 2 episodes, you kind of stuck in the same environment for like the whole fucking episode. And when they do when they switched over to the Marines, they were like stuck in a room just talking and playing Goji all the time. And I'm like, it felt like they were, because they didn't have this is how it felt. I'm not saying this is what it was, but it felt like they didn't have the budget, so they were cutting corners by just filming a lot of filler scenes just on a set. That's how it felt. And if you film something properly, you don't have to have that feeling, even if you don't have the money. So I was like, well, why are they doing this? It feels cheap, and it feels lazy. And it breaks the immersion. And in this show, you can't break the fucking immersion because it's a weird fucking show where you just need to be in the show with these characters and just be there. So there were things about certain sets that I didn't like, but for the most part, the sets were really good. You had actors who, most of the actors did great jobs, but some of the acting was, I don't know, kind of weak. And again, it felt like I was watching a PBS special. I don't know how to describe it, but there was a weak feeling about some of the actors. Not in the main cast, just some of the surrounding actors that would come in. They would read like their little lines, and it felt like I was watching a PBS special. That, coupled with some of the sets being not great, felt like I was watching something on PBS from the 90s. So there were really great things about it, and there were some bad things about it. But all in all, the show was good. With that being said, now let's do what I like to do the most and go into the bad stuff. So, of course, this is Netflix. So Netflix has to throw in their homosexual garbage into every fucking show. And to anyone that's listening to this that hasn't heard any of my other videos, I don't dislike homosexuals, but this is not a homosexual show. And if you're making a show that doesn't have any homosexuality in it, well, you don't have to insert homosexuality just to push it on to people that don't have any interest in viewing it. If Netflix wants to make homosexual shows, have at it. I won't watch them necessarily unless it's a really good show. Then, of course, I'll pay attention to it. I'm not a bigot or anything. But if you want to make that, then make it and let people know what it is, and people will watch it. You'll have some people that will watch it. If you want to make a Netflix original and there's homosexuality in it, I'm not going to necessarily complain about it unless you're using black people to push your homosexual agenda. If you're not doing that and you make it original and there's homosexuality in it, whatever. That's none of my business. You're allowed to. You're your own private company. I think are they public? I don't know. You're your own company. You can do whatever you like. You can make whatever you want. Homosexuals exist. They're gonna make products. They're gonna want to be represented. Have at it. Get it done. But if you're making something that is well known and it doesn't have homosexuality in it, well, that fans of that thing are gonna want to watch it, and the fact that that you decided you want to push homosexuality in it, so you're now going to change the story just to get it in there, it starts to annoy certain people. Maybe not everybody, because mostly people are stupid and they just go with the flow. And homosexuality has been pushed so much, and this agenda has been shoved down people's throats and up people's asses so much that stupid gullible lemmings just follow along. And they're like, "Well, I'm inclusive because I was told by the TV box that I should accept whatever they tell me to accept." And then they turn around and spread their cheeks. But some people probably won't complain, but I complain, and that's what I do. And in this show, I haven't seen any homosexual scenes or anything like that. But they cast this girl or this woman from Australia who is a tranny. It's a woman, so because you know how confusing this shit is. It's an actual woman with a vaginal hole who says she's a man. So it's a woman. They cast a woman to play the role of a boy named Toby. Didn't like that, but I'm not going to complain that much. It's Toby. It's a girl playing a boy, a young boy. He's supposed to be a fucking young boy in the show. In that the time frame that she's playing this character, he's supposed to be a boy. I mean,
海兵になりたいか。
ちょっと待ってください。確かに僕はルフィさんと友達ですが、ヘルメッポさんは別に。
なりてえよ。なりてえからここにいるんで。
ヘルメッポさん。
and he's like a little boy, practically. he's like maybe a preteen or in his early teens or something like that. Whatever. So he's a boy being played by a woman. Fine. I'm not gonna complain about that. You've had that done in the past. Fucking women played Peter Pan. One of my favorite anime, or my favorite anime of all time. The main character is voiced by a woman, and I love it. And I'll go into that a little bit later. But it's not the fact that a woman tranny person is playing this male character. It's the fact that it's either because they picked a tranny to play the character, or they picked a tranny to play the character because of this decision. But I feel it's because there was a homosexual person playing the role that they gave Toby so much fucking time and screen time in the show. Toby is a character that is part of a small arc of Luffy's. He's with Luffy from almost the beginning. He's like one of the first companions Luffy has. But he comes and he goes. I think he meets. I think he separates from Toby before he meets Zoro, who's the first person that he meets. Is it, or is it Nami? I don't know. I think it's Zoro. But I'm pretty sure he separates from Toby before he meets Zoro. But either way, he's with Toby. Toby's there with him for an arc, like I said, maybe a season, and then he's gone. And then it's all these other characters: Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Sanji, Chopper. All these other characters come in, and they're mainstays in the story. They're with Luffy the whole time. I think probably until the end. Again, I haven't seen the whole anime. And Toby has this very small arc in the beginning. Now, he comes in later on into the show after Luffy has established relationships with all these other characters. But the time frame that they're portraying in this show, which is very small, Toby shouldn't be there this long. So I'm like, why do they keep focusing on fucking Toby? And I'm like, are they focusing on him just because there's a tranny playing him? So they want to have a tranny on the fucking show? It's like, come on, man. And it takes away from the show because now they're spending all this time with fucking Toby instead of building the actual characters you should be paying attention to. You spend more time with Toby than you do learning about fucking the other characters, than Usopp or Sanji. I mean, in every episode, you're switching back to Toby. I'm like, why do we keep seeing Toby? Then they have scenes with Toby in the Marines, and it's like these scenes that you don't need in the show. So that Toby's playing, like I said earlier, playing Goji with with one of the admirals in the Marines. And there's like they keep focusing on the admiral training Toby. It's like, why are we watching this shit? Toby is such a small character. I mean, and there's so many other characters in this anime that you're not going to see because it's, they have to condense it. They can't put all of these different characters. But then if you're going to ignore all those other characters, well, fine, you want to mention Toby and show him. Obviously, he's a kind of a big part of the beginning of Luffy's journey, but then he's gone. Get rid of him. Why do they keep focusing on him? I think they keep focusing on him because they want to have a tranny in the show because it's Netflix and they have to put homosexuality in every show. And that annoys me. I don't need to see that in every damn show. You don't need to put that in every show. Homosexuals don't make up that much of a percentage of humans on this planet. Obviously, they exist and they're going to be shown in things and represented in things. But according to networks like Disney and Netflix, homosexuals make up like 50% of the population. So they're pushing this fictional dream that they have into these shows. And again, if you're Disney or Netflix or any network and you want to make homosexual shows, fine. I'm not going to complain about that. I won't watch all of them or most of them, but that's fine. You do what you have to do. These are your networks. You own it. You put out the stuff that you want. But stop making things that already exist that we already know about, things that we've already embraced and things that we've watched because they're palatable to us, and then dumping your own shit in it to try to push your fucking agenda. I don't want to see a fucking tranny all the time. I don't want to see that shit all the time. Toby is a boy. He's not a fucking tranny woman from Australia. So that part annoyed me. Just seeing that constantly just thrown in there. Toby. I'm like, we keep seeing this fucking Toby kid. So that bothered me and that annoyed me. Then you have, I'm trying to think, was there any, because the main thing I want to complain about is, I want to save that for last, but I'm trying to think, is there anything else that annoyed me? Or that I didn't like, or even that I liked? I don't really think so. I like the pacing of the show. And again, the beginning, the first two episodes, the first episode I don't even remember that much. But it wasn't too bad. It just felt, I don't know. I didn't really care for the first episode that much. The second episode, I didn't really like, again, because the way that they were jumping back and forth from them to Toby and to the tranny, and the fact that the way that they filmed that episode, that sequence where they're always in this dark carnival room, I didn't like it. It felt weird to me, and it pulled me out of the story, and it broke my immersion. And at that point, I was like, I hope the rest of the show isn't like this, where they're just filming on these little particular sets. And even if you film on a particular set, at least make the set interesting. This was just like a dark room, and then they switched over to Toby, and they were in a dark room on the boat, like in the boat playing Goji. So I'm like, oh god, so they're going to be doing this. It's not going to be interesting or fun to watch, because one of the things in any show that you want to watch is the scenery, the characters, the scenery, the sets, how they set it up, the costumes, all that different stuff you want to see. And it felt like that was absent in that episode. I don't know how to explain it. Again, I'm not that smart. If you want to watch it, check it out and just let me know what you think. But after those two episodes, the show kind of opened up a little bit more, and I started liking it. And I started like, oh, this is actually good. And if you're not a fan, I think if you're not a fan of this show, you may like it even more. Like if you've never watched One Piece or never heard of it or anything like that, you may like it a little bit more than me, who is an actual fan. You may think the show is even better than I think, because as a fan, there's certain things that I know that are missing or haven't been done, and so it kind of pulls me from the story. And certain things that you're looking for because you watch the show and you know what's about to happen, you know who's coming and what's going to happen and things like that. So you get pulled pulled from the show a little bit as an actual fan because you're waiting for something to happen, and then when it doesn't happen, or it happens and it's cheap looking, or it's not done well, you're kind of like, oh, they kind of fucked that up. But if you're not a fan and you watch this and don't know what to expect, this will be like a quirky, weird show, and it'll be interesting and you'll enjoy it. So again, I don't promote Netflix. Netflix can suck a dick, which it's Netflix. Of course, they're sucking dick all the time. So if you can find it for free, check it out, because you will enjoy it, especially if you're not a fan of the anime. Also, there are other little things that are in the show that I liked, like when they introduce you to Sanji. I'm not Sanji, to Usopp. There's this cat villain, cat pirate. And I started watching the show years ago. So there's things about the beginning of the anime that I don't fully remember because it's been years since I've watched the first several seasons. So there's things that I forgot about, but then when I see it again, I'm like, oh shit, I remember that, and that was cool. That they included certain things and that they tried their best to be as accurate and as faithful as they could to the anime without being fully faithful. Because again, this show is anime so outlandish and crazy, you can't be that accurate. You can't be that faithful, or it's going to become a joke. So there's like this cat pirate, and he adjusts his glasses with like the palm of his hand, and it's like this weird thing. It looks weird in the anime watching him do it, and then when the actor did it in the show, in the live action show, I'm like, oh shit, I forget. It just like brought back memories. So it's things like that that are cool. Again, I think the creator of the story had a hand in it, and that's probably why you were able to get all these little things in there. So that's the show in a nutshell. That's my rant about the show. Now I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about Netflix's racism, and I want to talk about the pathetic, it's really pathetic jealousy and racism from Japanese culture, Asian culture, but this is about Japanese culture. So as I said, I've watched this show in the past. Kind of a fan of the show. I'm not going to say I'm a fan of the show, because I'm not. The show's kind of entertaining every once in a while, and it's something I watch to pass the time. But I do know about the characters, and I am a fan of the characters. So the characters I'm a fan of. Other than Luffy, who's kind of annoying, I'm a fan of the characters. And one of the characters in the show, his name is Usopp. He's this fair-skinned, long, pointy-nosed, thick-haired loser. I call him a loser because he's like a pathetic coward. He is not strong. He's like the weakest person on the show. I'm up to a point in the anime where there is, because there's probably new characters I don't know about, but I'm up to the point where you have Luffy, you have Zoro, you have Nami, you have Usopp, you have Sanji, Chopper, and then you have this other girl. I keep forgetting her name. Nami Swan? Damn, what's her name? It's this other girl whose arms grow out of shit. She's some weird character. So that means you have two women, Nami and this woman with the arms that grow out. There's two women. Both of these women are better fighters. They're both stronger, and they're both braver than Usopp. Which is fine. You always have that type of character in these stories. Usopp looks like fucking Jughead from Archie comics. So Usopp is like, he's weaker than even the women. He's just like pathetic. He is more of a coward than this little reindeer animal called Chopper. He's like a little reindeer. He's like a little kid. He has like this little kid voice, and he acts like a little kid. Usopp is more of a coward than the little baby reindeer character named Chopper. Usopp is just like the worst. He's a sharpshooter. He's good at kind of like constructing things, but as far as masculinity, he's just like a joke. So I'm watching this show, and Usopp in this show, they make him black. And this is Usopp. This is a picture of Usopp. This is a picture of Usopp, and you see him with the other characters. He's the same skin tone, same complexion as the other characters. You would never have thought he was black. But Netflix decides to make him black. So Netflix, again, they decide that they're going to use a black character to portray the most pathetic, cowardly loser out of the group. Why? Why? Why did you need to do that? I don't think anybody who is a fan of the anime, unless even if fans of the manga, I don't think anyone thinks that Usopp is a black person or sees Usopp as a black person. So I don't know why Usopp looks like he could be Jewish, or he could be Greek, he could be from Portugal, he could be Italian. That's how he looks. But this character who nobody thinks is black, you decide to turn him into a black person. And again, like I said for other Netflix things, if you don't have anything good to say about black people, don't talk about us. Leave us out of it. No fan of the anime thought that there was a black person on the crew. And that doesn't bother us. Whatever, fine. We'll still watch it. It's a cartoon. That's not a big deal. So we don't expect to have a black person on the show. So you don't have to put a black person in the show if you don't want on the main cast. You don't need to do that because, again, that's not something that we, as fans, expected to see anyway. Because nobody sees a black person when they see these characters. But then Netflix decided, well, we're going to put a black person in it. But we're going to make the weakest, most pathetic person black. The biggest coward, we're going to make that into the black male. That's their idea of what a black male is. And Netflix does that. Netflix seems to do that a lot. You don't really have shows about black males on Netflix being heroes or anything like that. And again, I'm not saying that Netflix has an obligation to do that. If they don't want to do that, it's a white-owned company. You don't have to do that. You have a few exceptions, like Luke Cage. Luke Cage they needed to make because they were trying to make this heroes for this Defenders story, and you're making a story about these characters, you got to put Luke Cage in it. So that's why you had Luke Cage. The other shows that have black leads, the rare times that you get them, they tend to be kind of like draw. I don't know how to explain this again. But that's kind of like a draw. You get access to a major star like a Will Smith who did Bright, or Jamie Foxx who did a few shows on Netflix. That's kind of like a draw advertisement just to bring in more viewers. That's really why they did that. You don't get a lot of original stories with a main black character in it that was just made just to be made, where the character is this strong, heroic hero. That's rare on Netflix. So the fact that you're going to now make this show and put in a black male character and make him the most pathetic, cowardly, weak loser, it's like, well, why did you think to do that? Where did that idea come from? Why else would you do that unless you were just trying to be racist and poke fun at black males? So I had a problem with that. That kept taking me out of the show every time I saw it. Because I don't have a problem with Usopp because he's from the show. But Usopp in the show isn't black. So why'd you make him black in this? And Usopp from the anime isn't black, so why'd you make him black in this Netflix show? So then I went online and I saw a lot of people saying, well, Usopp is black. That the creator said or implied that Usopp is black, which I haven't verified whether he said or implied that or not. But people are saying that, so I'm going to believe them. That brings me to my next point about the pathetic jealousy of the Japanese people, and most people being jealous of black people, especially black males. I've been watching anime for a long time. How old am I now? For a long time, almost 3 decades. I started watching anime in my teens, and I mean real anime, not American anime like Voltron or Dragon Ball Z or G-Force. or how they call it, it's Gotcha Man. But the show I watched was called G-Force or Ronin Warriors. I call those American anime, even though they're real anime. That's kind of like American anime because the anime versions that we watched, things were changed and taken out to make it more Americanized. I mean real anime. The first anime I fell in love with was, which is my favorite anime even to this day, is a show called Ranma One Half, which surprisingly enough is similar to this LGBT message that's being pushed, because the main character Ranma Saotome, he is a boy and he gets cursed to turn into a girl whenever he's splashed with cold water. So you see a lot of these. They're not actual homosexual events in the show or homosexual scenarios in the show because he is a boy, but there'll be scenarios where the girl that he turns into, one of his male rivals, is attracted to. So he's always trying to date this female who is actually the male. Or the male Ranma, he will turn into a female, and these other females who love him know that about this curse that he has, so that they'll cozy up to the female version of him, knowing that it's that he's an actual man. Anyway, I just went over that to show how far back my love for anime goes. I've been watching anime for a long time, from comedies like Ranma over to serious shows like Moribito, to famous ones like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is to me one of the greatest anime of all time. Those famous ones down to ones that a lot of people don't know, like Claymore, shows like fucking Berserk, which I think is one of the greatest series or stories of all time. If you haven't seen Berserk, you gotta watch. I don't even know, because I don't want to produce or promote Japanese shit anymore. And I've been noticing as an adult, because you watch anime, there aren't that many black people in it, and that's understandable. And it's not something I care about, because these shows are based on Japanese culture and Japanese people. So I don't care about that. So there aren't a lot of black people, and you don't expect black people in these products. But there's a lot of white people. There's a lot of white people in these Japanese shows and these Japanese products. You'll see a lot of European folklore in a lot of the shows that they make, like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is a show about European people, or people that are kin to European people. The show that I was talking about called Munster earlier, it's about a Japanese doctor who lives in Europe. And so most of the characters, almost 95% of the people in the show are European. And so you'll see a lot of white people in these shows. Now that's, again, I'm not going to complain about that. If you're allowed to, as a human, as a group, to make whatever you want. If you don't want to make stuff with black people in it, I'm not going to say you have to. That's pathetic. That would make me pathetic. You make whatever you want. It's up to black people to whether they choose to want to interact with it or not. And the reason that stood out to me is because, again, as I'm growing up as a young black male, I'm watching these shows, and there's not a lot of black males or a lot of black people in the shows. Every now and then you'll have a black character in the show, or black people in the background. But there aren't a lot of black people, but there's a lot of white people. And it's like, oh, I guess Japanese people don't really like black people, maybe, or maybe they don't know about us. I don't know. But they tend to focus on themselves, which is fine, and they tend to focus on Europeans or white people. Okay, well, whatever. So that's weird to me. But as I get older, then it starts to become, you start to realize this sort of racist, toxic pattern where Japanese people will put some black people in there, but the black people will always be the butt of the joke, or they will be some sort of loser, background prop joke of a character. So, for example, there's this anime I watched decades ago called Baki, about a grappler Baki, about this kid that, he fights or whatever. He wrestles in tournaments. And they revived the show recently. So now you have this show, and I think you can find this show easily online, this show called Baki Hanma. So I'm watching the show, and I'm like, oh, this show is unique. They have these crazy, weird fights that go on in the show. And Baki's always fighting these different opponents. And one of the opponents that they bring into the later seasons is Muhammad Ali Jr. It's supposed to be Muhammad Ali's son. So they bring Muhammad Ali's son into the show, and he's a tough guy. And okay, all right, cool. They put a black fighter in. That's cool. They're including black people. But then as the show goes on, Muhammad Ali Jr. is kind of like treated as, I can't even describe it because it's been a while since I've seen it. It's kind of like treated like a piece of trash as the show goes on. He's not a villain. He's not a hero. He's not a villain. It's hard to describe. But in the show, several characters just meet him in the street, and they just humiliate him. They beat the shit out of him, and it's for no reason. It doesn't even have context in the story. When you watch the story, it's just like they wanted to show a black man being humiliated and tortured by some non-black males.
Come on!
さあ坊や、これで武器はすべてなくなっちまったわけだ。
That's how it felt because again, it had no bearing on the story. He wasn't attacking these people. He hadn't done anything wrong. He wasn't being portrayed as a villain. So then the way that they were showing each person, I mean, it was like 3, 4, maybe 5 different scenarios where a non-white character would just introduce themselves to him, and then like when I say beat him, I mean just like I don't even know how to describe it. It was just like torturous. It was bad. So I'm watching like, Jesus Christ, why would they put that in the show? After a while, you just get a feeling like, oh, these people just wanted to show a black person be humiliated. So then another season comes out, and there's another black character in there. And the black character, this time the character's tough, and nobody can beat him. But he's a prisoner. He's in prison, and he is obsessed over this fat white woman. And I mean, when I say fat, I mean like this bitch is like 700 pounds or 1,000 pounds fat. She looks like a big cloud of mashed potatoes with a face. And this guy is like in love with her. And I'm like, are they taking shots at black people again in the same damn anime? It's like insane. And then when you watch the white characters tend to be noble and strong, and they tend to just be the fucking hero, like in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, when the anime is made about white people. Or you look at things like Dragon Ball Z, where you see how much Japanese people worship whiteness. So in Dragon Ball Z, you have these characters who have black hair and dark eyes, it's just similar to Japanese people. And they're powerful and whatever. But when they become Super Saiyan and they achieve this sort of godhood level of abilities, when they become better than themselves and become almost gods, then their eyes turn blue and their hair turns blonde. So are the Japanese people saying, is that the thought to Japanese people that that if you're Japanese and you want to become godlike, you need to turn your hair blonde and your eyes blue? That people with blonde hair and blue eyes are gods when compared to themselves? It's this weird, it's this pathetic jealousy that they have. And the only reason I always call it jealousy now is I don't just say racism anymore. I call it for what it is. It's pathetic jealousy that these groups have for black people. Because groups like Japanese people, these Japanese artists who make these, makes this anime and make all these different things where they're disparaging black people in general, they will make these great stories about Japanese people and white people, and then they will shit on on black people as if black people aren't capable of reaching these heights, when all throughout history, I mean, you go all throughout history, black people in real life accomplish great heights. We make the best fighters, the best. We are considered to be the strongest, the fastest. We are considered, when you look at sports, to be physically superior in almost every fucking way. And I don't mean that just because you're black, you're superior. I don't mean. But I mean, if you take a black athlete and a white athlete and an Asian athlete and a Hispanic athlete and you train all of them the same and you put them against each other, the black person tends to come out on top. That's just the reality of it. So in real life, we have shown ourselves to be this physically superior group. As far as intellect, some of the most famous intellectual people are black. You have people like what's that guy's name? Shit, can't remember his name now. The astrophysicist, Michael Eric. No, wow, this guy. Is known as is known as this great mind. You have great scholars who come out, people like Malcolm X, who are criminals who go to prison, but come out and display such a mastery of psychology and the fuck, I don't want to say economics, but psychology and sociology, that this guy being put on television. He's doing interviews on these news programs because this guy's mind, even though this guy is just some guy you would have thought of just as some convict, went out and became this great mind that people to this day respect and quote. So even when it comes to intellectual things, black people have shown themselves to be at least around the same level as everybody else. You have all these great black inventors. You have this guy here. I don't have these people's names in front of me, and I'm not in front of a computer. But you have this guy here who helped make video games into what they became, into this viable thing. So we've shown ourselves to not just be great physically, but to be great intellectually. We've shown ourselves to be durable, strong, hardworking people. We went from being treated as animals by societies in Europe and in America, and we have, for the most part, overcome it. We haven't reached the goals where we need to reach because the groups that we're fighting have so much financial control and so much power behind them that we haven't reached it, but we were able to break free from the places that they had us in because we fought back and we built for ourselves and we made for ourselves. And this struggle that blacks have had is well known to people around the globe. But for some reason, despite all of that, these groups decide, well, we're going to portray these people who have proven themselves in all these different ways. We're going to portray them as like the background props, the losers, the cowards, the jokes, the weaklings. And we're going to portray ourselves who don't have those same types of feats that are well known. We're going to portray ourselves to be this great thing. Now, if you want to portray yourselves as these great people who are great, whatever, and you watch anime, they're great at everything. If you want to do that, that's fine. But then why are you adding in black people as this joke and treating us as the butt of the joke all the time and treating us as less than? The only reason you would do that, because that's not the reality, the only reason you would do that and do it on a consistent basis for decades is because there's something about black people you don't like or something that you're jealous of. That's the only reason. What other reason could there be? What other reason? Black people haven't shown themselves to be cowards or pathetic or jokes. We haven't shown ourselves to be that as a group all these decades. Of course, you have white companies portraying, just like the way you see it in Japanese anime that I just described, you have white people portraying us that way. That's how they portray us. But the reality, what people know to be the reality, we're not that. So then why are people constantly portraying us that way? If that's not the reality, then why, for decades, or if not centuries at this point, do people who are non-black try to portray us in this way? when they know that's not the reality. The reason that you keep seeing it and it keeps happening is because people see what we really are and who we really are, and they're jealous. So they use their media and their mediums to make us look like what they want us to be, which is cowards, pathetic, weak, perverse, animalistic. They do that because that's what they want us to be. And I'm sick and tired of seeing that shit and getting these little pop shots. In anime, I think there's only one anime character, famous anime character. There may be some obscure ones that nobody fucking knows about, but there's only one. The black anime character that is just like a regular hero. He's a regular man. He's not a coward. He's brave. He's strong. And he's just a regular male hero. And that's what Afro Samurai. I think that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. And like I said, I've been watching anime for about 3 decades at this point. Other than Afro Samurai, I can't think of any well-known, big, famous black anime stars or anime characters that are just either heroic or just regular, just a regular hero. Where there don't have to be, because Usopp is a hero, but he's not a regular hero to me because he's this pathetic coward and loser who has to depend on these other people to kind of help him in all these situations. So just a regular hero, just a regular man who's strong, brave, tough. How many? Name them. Put them in the comments. And again, these have to be characters that are well known, not some obscure character that nobody fucking knows except for a handful of people. I'm talking about a well-known character. Other than Afro Samurai, there ain't any. And again, that normally wouldn't be a problem to me. I wouldn't complain. I would never make a video saying Japanese people have to make us heroes in their stories. I would never say that. I would never say white people have to make us heroes in their stories. I'm not saying that. Nobody's obligated to do something that I want. That would make black people pathetic, where we're begging non-black people to portray us in a certain way or to put us in their stories. I'm not saying that. But if you don't want to put us in your stories, fine. Then leave us out. If you decide to include us, then we don't want to be portrayed as weak, pathetic cowards or perverts or losers or weaklings. We don't want to be portrayed that way. And why would you want to portray us that way? Unless you look at us and you see how great we are, and there's this jealousy within you that makes you say, you know what, I'm going to use my platform to try to alter that narrative and alter reality and make these people into the pathetic pieces of trash that I think that I am. So that was my issue watching the show. That's what made me want to make this video. I wasn't going to make the video before. But then watching it, I'm like, again, my platform's little and nobody's going to really hear this, but it's my way of kind of fighting back. And any blacks that see this kind of understanding that just because you're seeing yourselves being portrayed in all of these products and all of these shows and all these movies as homosexuals and drug dealers and womanizers and losers and cowards, that's not what we are. And you have to know that. That isn't what we are. You see that in all of these shows because non-black people are making them. White men and women, Asian men and women, Hispanic men and women, they're the ones making these shows and making us that way. They're portraying us that way because, like I said earlier, they see how great we really are and they're jealous. So they use their platforms to make us appear to be what they are in reality, which is weak and pathetic. So, I don't know. I'm telling people to watch the show, but like I said, if you can catch it for free and you're interested in just watching something that's interesting, check it out. But as far as me supporting anime, not all people, it's difficult because not all anime shows do this. Like I said, they just won't put us in there, or we'll be like just a background character who's in the show. We won't be relevant in any way. So I don't want to say that they're all doing this, but it's too much shit I'm starting to see from parts of Asia where people are popping jokes at us, and that's not something that we do. That isn't something that black society does. It's It's black people don't have a habit of taking their opportunity to make something and using it to make other groups look bad. You may have instances like, let's say, Living Color, where they'll make stereotypical jokes about Asians, but that's in a show that's making stereotypical jokes about everyone, including themselves. The vast majority of its stereotypical jokes are about black people. So if they throw in a few white or a couple Asian people just to be part of the skit, that's not us saying that we're great and you're less. That's just making fun of everybody as a whole, as opposed to these other shows where they're going to make themselves great and they're going to make themselves strong and heroic and then make us into the pathetic losers and the background prop characters. When in reality, you know that it's reversed, that black people are the ones that have, of course, have displayed this physical superiority. We've shown that we're brave. We've shown that we're not as immoral or perverse as other groups. It's a well-known fact that parents, white parents anyway, tell their little white kids that if you're lost, go seek out a black person, and they tell them go seek out a black man, find a black man.
What do you do if you get lost?
Find a big black guy.
You find a big black guy, and what do you tell him?
And that I lost.
That you're lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd find my home.
Because society knows that as much as they see that shit on television, when they're in the real world, they know that we're not perverse. You're not going to find pedophile rings within black society. You're not going to find black people selling their children off to these rings so that these rich people can have sex with them. That's not something that's done in black society. You won't find black people eating pigeon meat and eating rat dung and shit like that, and doing insane shit like getting, what is it that they do in China? Get oil out of the sewer and use that to make food for each other.
This is gutter oil being collected. If you've visited or lived in China, you have eaten gutter oil. What you see here is a restaurant worker straining out used chili oil from a trash can. This is being collected to be reused for the next customer who orders spicy hot pot.
You're not going to see that kind of shit. You're not going to see a lot of the depravity and sick stuff that you see in these other cultures. You're not going to see it in black culture. And the rest of the world knows that. And they're upset that black people have, despite being pushed into this box, have shown themselves to be a decent group of people. And so they use their platforms to demonize us. And I'm tired of seeing that shit. Now I'm rambling. This has become another random rant, I guess. So just let me know what you think in the comments. And all right, I'm going to go now.